Chris Roberts not showing up to the paid cold lunch and hot air event would be magical.
It's quite complicated to get working. I know there was a fair amount of skepticism out there. You really gotta earn the belief. The game wasn't built. The game wasn't built.
Haven't had an opportunity to work on them, but they are in the works.
Refactor them, change things out, retrofit it, refactor them, refactor them. People program things.
This is bullshit.
This is your virtual captain speaking. Hello, everybody. We are on ARGcast episode 8, I believe. Today I'm sitting with Bootcha of Sunk Cost Galaxy fame and Dapper Don. How's it going, guys?
Doing well.
Doing great.
So, you know what we forgot to talk about is the topics we've been going over. But, you know, I think one thing is on everybody's mind this week, and that's the Sunk Cost Galaxy episode 5 was finally released. I've been waiting so long. Bootcha, thank you. It was absolutely golden.
Thank you.
I thought episode 4 could not be outdone, but this was very interesting. And I was listening to those guys over there on the guard frequency react to it. Interesting, and you know, I was surprised that that oil industry analogy hit home for them, and I'm guessing quite a few people. I mean, that's a pretty big industry here in the States, no?
Yeah, very much so. But go ahead, Dapper.
Well, I think one of the main things that and this is just my take of it, and a few of the other people that I've shown this to, is it's not so much that you are shedding light on a new thing. You're just showing that there have been scam artists since the beginning of this nation. This is just the latest iteration of it, and the fact that you were able to nail this down to an identical logic point is just incredible.
I mean, for this episode, it was. I mean, as I said before in a couple of episodes before on ARGcast, was that this chapter went through a lot of rewrites, and the initial idea of sort of like monetary fracking techniques was actually going through a lot more of the more specific stuff that Star Citizen is known for, sort of like the CCUs, sort of like the specific spaceships. I mean, like, it wasn't so much. I didn't take the title pun, so to speak, and run with it. So I was actually doing a more literal version of sort of like running down all these, you're getting lost in the weeds, so to speak. And It took kind of a review of what I had written to just sort of say, none of this coalesces together because, I mean, sort of like, going from,
what's that
for
thing
example,
what's that thing they like to say over before the Derek Smart subreddit got shut down, Gish Gallop, where you just hit him with too many subjects?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I was, when I watched it, I was thinking, but there's so many more, topics that you could cover, but I think you're right, just going through these, I think, maybe it was 3 or 4 different techniques was, suitable. Sufficient.
I think the techniques, I think the techniques were more important to go over rather than sort of what was
individual
the dress
examples
that was being put on currently. Yeah. So like, I mean, I had stuff like the stretch goals and what constitutes a promise and stuff like that, and then went on to like the CCU melting and sort of like the database schmeg that Lando coined the phrase on that when they were trying to like wipe every CCU off, and that was probably the closest thing to a community riot that CIG has had. and then like sort of like even more weeds, sort of like what was the real deal with like the Vanguard, the Beamer, the next great starship, winning ship, and it's just sort of like none of these things really coalesced together into a coherent theme. It was just sort of me running around, just sort of like spinning plates, and that. And I know that the majority of my audience would still get a kick out of whatever I put out, but there was sort of an onus on me to actually make a better quality product and sort of say, okay, I need to reevaluate. And then that's when I sort of looked at the title, Monetary Fracking Techniques. It's sort of like, I need to read up on oil drilling a little bit more, just sort of like refresh my knowledge. And I picked up this book. Let's see, I got it down right over here. Let's see, Wildcatters.
Now I didn't see that movie There Will Be Blood that you used a lot of clips and was a good source of the analogy, but it sounds like from some of the reactions that it was quite good, and that this is a pretty famous movie that. There was a lot of references that probably went over my head. But one part I really loved was where you showed Chris going up the stairs, and then you switch to the movie, and he's going down the stairs to talk to all the suckers. That was really that was really incredible.
Yeah, I got to agree. The level of your videos, the quality, the content, with each one, it just keeps getting better, and you just keep nailing it down from what some would view as just a disgruntled backer's opinion to, no, this is the actual insight of somebody that was there at the ground floor that was actually at the table behind the curtain. And a lot of people have tried to take shots at your credibility as, well, the fact that, well, you're not a game developer. Well, you don't have to be. If you're the money man behind the game developer, then you have just as much of a valid opinion as the monkey, hammering in the code. But your content quality has been spot on, and you have not jumped to any kind of flights of fancy or personal opinions. You've just been nailing it down, truth to power every time. And I really wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you for the compliment. I want to say, like, the upstairs downstairs thing, that was a happy accident, and I really didn't even plan.
Really?
I didn't even plan on that being a like I was trying to get some footage, like some coverage for what I was commentating on, sort of like upstairs, and then Wildcatters were doing this too, and these Plains View is going downstairs. It's sort of like, oh, okay, that works. So moving on. I've got other shit to do.
I think it, in some ways, was, or I could see how it could be an accident. Was the proximity of those two clips an accident? I gotta think no.
No, it wasn't. The proximity wasn't an accident because it was sort of. I wanted to use a little bit more of There Will Be Blood, but at a certain point, you can't just completely lean on a literal analogy before it starts to break. I mean, you can make passing references to say, you have seen this before in art, and life is imitating art.
Well, I gotta go see that movie now, definitely.
But I mean, as far as sort of like the actual research of the whole thing was interesting because I decided to pick up a book. If you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about that era, it's called Wildcatters, Texas Independent Oilmen, by Roger M. Olin. Pretty much the first couple of chapters sort of like talk about where the need for oil and where it came from, who they are, what they do, and then it goes into Wildcatters and trendologists. Trendologist being a wonderful word. As sort of like people that just study the trend and just try to stay one step ahead of it to maximize income. And so looking back at it, I was reading the book, and then the story of Dr. Cook came up, and I was thinking, where have I heard that name before? Turns out he was the discredited polar explorer. And sort of like and as I started researching more and more into what Dr. Cook did specifically at the Petroleum Producers Association, that was the big thing that he got nailed on for postal fraud. Like the weirdest thing that I got out of that was Dr. Cook sued a Fort Worth publication for libel after they were running articles, questioning the methods of like these massive mail outs on basically what was just like an outright gamble. And to the point, and so what Dr. Cook did and his associates at the PPA, first they tried to sue them, and then they bought the publication to silence them.
Yes, that is that is very prevalent in today's news cycle. A lot of people that are really quick to sign over the rights to their story don't realize that the party that's purchasing them will tank that story just to keep the silence, as you just spoke.
Yes, and then it turns out sort of like once the U.S. government nailed them on charges for postal fraud, the purchase actually came up. So yes, and there were a couple more instances of buying silence or silencing criticism. In the case of that, was a couple more publications. So I was just thinking, sort of like, wow, it's sort of like this reminds me so much of the escapist thing, because CIG came back with legal action against the escapist, and I was just thinking, I mean, this is me at the time when I was still a investor with them. It's sort of like, really, you're going after a gaming rag for publishing an article, and you're really mad about it. Why are we doing this?
Right.
And a lot of people cite that escapist response as the reason for something's wrong and getting out. But
I have
go
a
ahead,
question. So at what point did you and CIG finally officially part ways?
Well, let's see. The official day was probably the day I posted what was it, Victory or whatever it was.
All right, for those of us not in the know.
Okay, for those not in the know, okay, let's see. November 18th, 2015.
Okay.
So,
what was the
So
the
this
date
is about
of the
2 weeks after the July blog, I take it.
in November, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the July blog came out, and then Chris had his rebuttal to that with that gaming magazine.
Yep.
Were you still in the circle at that time?
The circle had moved to LA at that point, and I was finding myself more on the outside looking in.
Okay.
Both based on my proximity and based upon the direction that CIG wanted to go with their expansion plans and development plans.
Okay, so what were your thoughts at the time when all of this hit?
And Bootcha,
what were you
of course,
thinking to yourself?
and of course, if there's something you can't answer or don't want to answer, feel free to just,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
To say no comment, yeah. Repeat the question, please.
So after Derek wrote, the blog to end all blogs, and then Chris took 8 hours to melt down on paper about his rebuttal to that. What you sitting there, you've got skin in this game.
Yes.
What were you thinking to yourself?
I think my initial reaction to Derek Smart was much like, well, any other person's or any other backer's reaction as they stand right now. Sort of like, who is this guy? What the heck is he trying to prove? And for me, sort of like, why does this guy feel like he needs to endanger my investment? And and then after considering the position for a while, it dawned on me sort of like, I don't have to take him for his word, nor do I have to take CIG's word through the media outlets. I can actually go into the office and actually figure out what's going on for myself. sort of like that weird epiphany, sort of like, oh wait, I can actually find out a little bit about this. I mean, I can't find out about everything, because obviously it is within some rights that the executive staff can say we can't comment on it, even to you. So it took a while for me to sort of come around. I mean, sort of like, some of my earlier videos were, still critical of Derek. Just like who the heck is this guy?
Okay. I remember, I think it was the post declaring such that had happened to the Something Awful forums, and you thanked the Imp Zone. What was that about? I didn't quite understand that part.
Oh, the Imp Zone. Okay, so that was sort of the other thing that kind of turned most of the goon backers into slightly more skeptical. Because back then, we were drinking the Kool-Aid just as much as anybody else. I mean, we were, I think, what was the total? I think the goons had a total of like $350,000 spent.
Okay, the number I've seen is 250, but yeah, I'd take
it was somewhere around there, yeah. And then the Imp Zone, another subforum on Something Awful, decided to invade our thread, and it got moved around from games to Imp Zone, all around. Basically, it was kind of screwing with us and just telling us to take a breath. In more
wake up and smell the coffee.
Terms. Wake up, smell the coffee. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Look at this critically. You're all crazy. Get a refund. Right. And like there was a time I took some troll plus personally, and then like I had to go over to somebody else. It's like, dude, am I really taking this? No, it was someone else. It's sort of like I just went over to somebody. It's like, am I taking this way too seriously? Why am I getting angry over this?
Why?
And they said, but you shouldn't.
Yeah, to underline your point, I wandered into the Something Awful thread sometime early 2014, maybe earlier than that, and I couldn't really tell what had been, what was working in game apart from, the fantasy posts. So I thought, wow, this, I knew they had a lot of money and I knew they had a big team, and I thought, oh wow, this is really moving along here. Okay, and I was not really in the thread at that point.
I never really considered any of that because, I mean, I'll be honest with you. As a consumer, I've got a career that I'm not in the tech industry. I'm not in the gaming industry. I'm in none of that. So I go to my games to kind of unwind after a hard day at the mill, and these are things that, I use to relax. And so when I was looking at Star Citizen, the last thing I was doing is, hiring private investigators to do background checks on the developers, Chris Roberts, and everyone involved. No, I just saw this as a game that I could play with my kid and have a good time. And it did not take long. It did not take long at all for the community and the product itself to be shown for what it was.
That's such a weird thing to say. I mean, no, like very specifically what you said was something for myself and my kid to play. And that is very much a line that is touted by many of the faithful to say, why they're looking forward to this game is sort of like, oh, this is a family affair. Sort of like, I will play this game with my kid. This will, in the same way, sort of like a family of World of Warcraft gamers. Sort
That's
of like,
exactly what I was thinking of.
Sort of like, hey, let's have WoW night or some let's have board game night, and people look at Star Citizen as sort of like it's like, oh, let's play Star Trek together and stuff like that.
Right. Well, as I spoke on the earlier ARGcast, is my son lives in a different state than I do, so for us to have a gaming night or two together, that's a real treat for us. So I like I was telling Captain, this was something that, me and my son were looking at as, we get to play Lost in Space and be the Swiss Family Robinson with a spaceship. And that was kind of it. And so when I hear people talk about, well, you don't know game development, or you don't understand this, or you don't know that. As a consumer, I shouldn't have to. If you're telling me you have this game that is doing this and it can do that, well, okay. by rules of consumerism, here is my money, and I have no problem with watching you create the product that you have. But when there's obvious milestones and foundational components missing, that really started to peel back the layer on what was underneath.
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of like circling back to sort of like the escapist meltdown. I mean, that was my, I mean, like my impression going in before the whole thing was sort of, this is a product I believe in enough to actually invest a significant amount of dosh that I believe that it will be a successful product and that we'll get there with the roadmap that we have in place. And sort of like you were sort of asking what happened around that time. Not to spoil too much, but this will be discussed in a far future chapter. And the best thing I can describe it as, it is a crime scene.
Say that again? What's a crime scene?
That the situation around that escapist article and everything else associated with it, it's a crime scene.
That's how it was being treated, or
that is how I am describing it for right now, and I will.
Oh, right. Okay, so you have the mole hunt and a few other chapters. I think 2 chapters dedicated to this topic. Basically, am I wrong?
One very specifically, yes.
So, concerning the latest episode, episode 5, you had quite a lot of animations in there. I take it that's another contributing factor to the time it took to get it out, or get it ready.
Actually, this time I decided not to use the video editors like in-engine animation stuff. So I decided to actually take a step outside and pretty much those animations were a lot quicker to reiterate on for what I wanted. So actually this time, because the Spaceship Tetris took, it was about like 3 or 4 weeks to fully animate within the video editor. This it took probably for each animation between 2 and 3 days. So the turnaround was actually a lot easier. And I also decided that I wasn't going to have an entire, 3-4 minute section of full animations.
So,
which also helps.
Yeah, I've used the same software, and I was looking at it thinking, man, how did he do all that? It looked totally different from some of your previous animations. So that explains that.
Yeah, I learned my lesson from chapter 4.
Yeah.
I mean, I really there are things about that chapter that I cut out that I still want to talk about, and I think for this month I'm going to set aside the next chapter for the chapter 6, Fool's Paradise. I'm going to set that back a couple of weeks so I can actually do just the Salt Cook Travesty filler episode, so I can talk about some of the stuff that was cut.
All right, so I'm bouncing around here between Twitch chat and the thread, and I just heard Dapper. I was worried that maybe we had lost you, but it sounds like we still got you.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So yeah, excellent episode. Everybody loves the series. I think it's quite impartial as well, which is valuable.
Well, it's not the fact that it's just impartial. It's the fact that
it's factual.
This is a factual. It doesn't get more factual than this. Short of Aaron coming out and saying, you know what, screw those guys. Here's what's going on. All right, Bootcha is the very next thing that we can get. I mean, he was in there. You don't get to say he doesn't know what he's talking about. He had skin in the game.
Yeah.
Shut up. The man peeled back some serious skin to back this.
Well, that's why I take it even more seriously than, a high-level whale that, just bought a bunch of space chariots.
God, yes.
It's like this guy was not interested in, the fantasy. He was interested in the bottom line.
Yeah. And he was promised a share of that.
Well,
anyways,
to put into context, I mean, as far as that, it's for a large backer, that has concierge status, and he can ask questions to concierge. The difference between me and those backers, as far as that is I had access and dialogue behind that veil. It's like, make no mistake, the interactions on the concierge level have their own little box theater in which your concierge representative dance for you in, and behind that box, behind that veil, is a whole different machine. And I've been privy to how that works.
Well,
And
can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
Why are the refunds stopping?
Why are the refunds stopping? Because refunds are bad press.
I understand they're bad press, but the longer I am right now 3 months in to a long email chain of a refund specialist will be right there with you. I have poured through every bit of SIG's corporate data, and at no time is there a position or a slot called refund specialist.
Oh,
I
I have a side project that, it takes me to the LinkedIn of Foundry 42 and Cloud Imperium, and yeah, you're right. I haven't seen that job title.
But the thing is, why would you force somebody that has minimal skin in the game? Why would you force them to be surgically attached to you at the hip when that's going to create more frustration and bad will towards the community than just, here is a person that's going to be a rabble rouser, give him his money, get him off the project.
Okay, so we're talking about why string out this process.
Right.
Okay, so from a large company standpoint, the idea behind refunds is that we legally have to be able to provide them. The method in which we give those refunds is up to us, in sort of like the big corporate way. And so there's a little bit of psychology in it. It's sort of like, what's the maximum amount of effort somebody's willing to go to get a refund? And if you can string it along well past the point where somebody will say, you know what, darn it, I don't care anymore, I'm just going away. You still have their money. They stop complaining.
The machine rolls on.
The machine rolls on, and the big good guy wins. So
yeah, because I'm right now in the middle of a nice little project with the Florida State Attorney's Office over this very thing. I'm not taking him to small claims court like a few people have attempted or threatened. I just went straight to the Attorney General. I went, and he directed me to the state which I live in. And so far, this is the part that really kind of took my breath away when they invited me to their office. Was they know all about Star Citizen. They have had their phone ringing a bit about this. So I talked to a few other friends that live in other parts of the country, and they've taken a similar track. This is actually starting to get this. In other words, it's a bad thing when these kind of people know your name.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing. And eventually they're going to have enough to do something. And I'm just trying to wonder if their in-house legal counsel thinks this is a good idea or not.
I don't think he cares. That would probably be the most honest answer I can give. I don't think he cares about that. Okay. I mean, obviously right now he has bigger fish to fry. I mean, but as far as, the complaints, sort of like, the complaints about, I mean, most of the refund blowback is handled by Swafford Media, sort of like David Swafford. That's the guy that sort of like talks to a lot of the media outlets on press releases and whatnot. Sort of like the Pixel Lemonade article that went up for a little bit. Those things were supplied by Swafford.
And so he's in charge of the hiring all this Disney cast of characters that have been writing the emails and providing CS, because I get my correspondence through a character, an employee apparently at CIG called Don Carnage.
Swafford isn't responsible for hiring the CS staff. That actually falls to Sandy Gardner.
So she's hiring Disney characters.
She does work in entertainment.
Of course she does. Roll that tickle porn. It never gets old.
But I mean, like, as far as sort of like, refunds, sort of like, Ortman doesn't care about that because what's going to happen at the end? It's a very small percentage of your backer base. Obviously, they're irate, and they're going to the people that you'd rather not piss off. Right. But what's the worst that's going to happen? The state's going to tell you need to issue these refunds, and then you tell them, okay, we'll get right on that. And they say, well, when are you going to do it? We'll do it at our earliest immediate convenience. And then the state goes, well, you need to have this done by this time, and you say, sure, we will have it done by that date.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this is true. And so, why bother worrying about it?
Well, for me, because I find that, as a business owner, I find the path of, the least resistance to be the most profitable and enjoyable way of working. And so when you're attaching angry, disgruntled people at the hip and you're just blowing them off because you think you have enough to just draw this out as long as possible, really? Now you got to think about this twice. And every time in between that disgruntled person rings your doorbell. I just, as a business owner, to me, the logical course is just, you know what? They're not happy with what I'm doing. Here's what you put into it. I'm sorry it didn't work out. Maybe sometime down the line you'll reconsider me. But to see this is willful malice almost. Yeah. And I'm just, you don't strike me as that kind of person. You a good business person, maybe savvy with where you feel a future trend is. I'll give you that. You're very likable, you're very personable, you're intelligent. But willfully malice and angry? No, I don't take that from you at all. So I wonder where this corporate direction truly is coming from, because is it Chris Roberts? Or is this Ortwin?
It's a combination of the top three, honestly. It's Ortwin, Sandy, and Roberts.
A certain amount of resentment towards backers that, it's not hard to find evidence of. Would you agree with that?
I think so. From my perspective, is sort of as far as where this is willful malice. CIG and the executive staff, they are not known for taking a hard look in the mirror as far as questioning their own actions or or making apologies or reconsidering past actions. Sort of, as we've sort of gone over before, Roberts doesn't really apologize. Sandy does not apologize at all. Ortwin, he does not. Ortwin doesn't apologize for much. This is, we are looking at the defendants right now, sort of looking over at the legal tracker.
Excuse me.
Sort of like looking at the defendants' responses to stuff like the motion to dismiss. This guy doesn't apologize for a whole lot.
That's true.
Okay.
So we're looking at we're looking at an executive level staff that doesn't look themselves in the mirror and looks at the questioning of their actions with disdain and incredulousness. Sort of like, why would you question it? This is how business is done. This is how I do things. How dare you question me?
Okay,
it's
so
like,
when you say this, you're saying this as something that you know from your relationship with them? Because one of the things that I think all of us kind of look to you for as you were the man in the room.
Right.
We almost by virtue of that take that to be delivered with truth. And so when I ask you this and you put the characters of these people in this kind of light, I want to make sure that it is done in the same integrity that you've always carried yourself with.
Okay. So for that, it is a case of I've had to reevaluate every communication, every face-to-face, every phone call that I've had with these people. Because at a certain point, I was put in a box where theater was played for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because sort of like so I have to reconsider the words, the language, what was being told to me, and contrast that to, again, sort of what I talked to the line devs about, because the line dev, the trench devs, the code monkeys hammering away aren't going to put on theater for you because A, they ain't paid to do that, and 2, they got no time for it.
Right.
And so obviously the word from the word from on high can vary differently from what's happening down in the trenches. And so I mean, like, for example, like prior to investigation, sort of like, I had no problem with the interactions between myself and Sandy Gardner, but that's not to say there weren't problems with Sandy Gardner's communication with other people.
Okay.
And so, again, it's a case of just I have to reevaluate the language that was told to me, sort of like seeing where the mask was put on, what theater was performed in front of me, and say, you know what, that was disingenuous. That was not the real Sandy that I have seen face to face when she's facing other people.
Mm-hmm. So you definitely you're saying that there's a definite predatorial sense there.
I think on the whole of CIG's executive staff, you can classify as predatory. I think there are different types. I mean, sort of like Chris's faults are very different. Yeah,
I'm willing to give a gradient, but it's definitely a prey on others.
I mean, sort of like Chris's predatory faults are different from Sandy's predatory faults, if we can put it like that.
Okay.
Sort of like Chris
different
needs
food.
money. Yeah, different. Well, in the case sort of like Chris needs more money because he doesn't know how to project manage, and it's going to cost more money for him to figure things out, and therefore that's why he needs more money.
Why are we paying him to practice?
He's been out of practice for 10 years, man.
That's always been, that was my, especially when they brought up, oh, well, he did Wing Commander. Well, let me look at Wing Commander. Okay, he was art director. What's everything that he's done under his own steam? Oh, it turned to shit. Oh, so he has the poop Midas touch. Okay.
Yeah.
No. In fact, if I'd have known about this, and it's bad because I just went and bought like Monster Hunter World, and for a split second there, I was thinking, should I pull out my phone and look up this company or buy the fucking game? I bought the game. I mean, it was just, come on. I mean, it's almost like spousal abuse with this company.
I mean, but this is stuff that I will definitely talk about in future episodes of Sunk Cost Galaxy.
I hope so.
Oh no, yeah, it will be talked about, and if not in Sunk Cost Galaxy, Salt Cook Travesty.
Right. Now, can I ask you one more question? I'm sorry, but just getting the opportunity to talk to you is just really, I try to maximize it.
Right.
So looking at like the original, the original, like God honest, hand to God, I'm Mr. Chris Roberts. I'm telling you, I'm taking all of these monies that you're giving me, and I'm putting it towards the game and nothing else. What are your thoughts on him or whoever it was at CIG that's in charge of this, buying out or sponsoring streamers with these new $5,000 computers?
I wish I could be more outraged, but I think this is kind of a nothing burger. I wish I could be more outraged about it, but
Okay.
it is also a case of kind of confirming what we knew for a while.
Right.
Us as goons, sort of that certain streamers were either given preferential treatment or were sponsored / paid / contracted in one form or another to stream Star Citizen.
Right. But you don't think that in a lot of respects that them sending these streamers, these really outrageously expensive and high-powered computers for the purpose of, currying their favor, you don't think that kind of tarnishes the entire streaming community? I mean, it's blatant.
Well, I mean, as a streamer, I mean, like I'm not a streamer. I'm not a person that makes money off of content creation and media.
Okay.
That is not how I make my living. That is not how I how I plan to make my living. And again, sort of like Suncoast Galaxy will be no monetization, no ads, no nothing. It will be free, and there will be no Patreon because giving other people money is how this whole thing started.
Right.
But as far as like the the ethics of Twitch streaming and sort of like that, it's kind of hard to get mad and upset about Captain Richard getting a $5,000 box just so he can get an extra 5 frames, 8 frames, better quality on his Star Citizen streaming.
If that.
I'm looking at the message that it sends. It's not so much that I care about their janky ass nowhere game is going to get an extra few FPS. That they have long since passed the any kind of value of diminishing returns. They're in a completely new galaxy of that formula now. But
$5,000.
I agree with you. In the grand scheme of things, not a lot of money, and in today's high profile gaming PCs, yeah, that's a drop in the bucket. But okay, here's where I'm kind of going with this is, at what point, all right, do other gaming companies start deciding, you know what, I'm going to take the highest watched Twitch streamer and say EA buys this guy a multi-million-dollar mansion and his entire gaming studio. All right, so at what point do you're like, wow, I'm just watching a commercial for EA now? That's kind of where I'm going with it.
I think we have left the ballpark at this point. I understand where you're coming from, but I think we should keep the comparisons and the analogies within the same ballpark of.
Well, I meant with respective budgets. EA is a multi-billion-dollar company. All right, CIG is a multi-hundred-million-dollar company. So adjust your sliding scale, however. The point I'm trying to get, and somebody in the chat, Artemis Black, is saying buying Twitch streamers is a pretty common thing. I did not know that. All right. So again, I'm Joe Schmuck consumer. I like video games, and internet's cool. I don't know this. So I look to these kind of people to show me, because I'm not watching YouTube because I know YouTube has a monetization issue. That makes people overnight millionaires versus you're not hearing very many Twitch multimillionaires. So I know I can come here and it's almost in every man that has a webcam, mic, and a PC, they can stream. So I look to them as these kind of beacons on what's going on. But knowing that it's being bought and paid for, it like I said, it's bad. It's bad on the actual
The entire market is
perspective
shifting
of the
towards
issue.
native ads, and I think video games is no different. But
Really?
CIG has Cloud Imperium Games Corporation has been kind of subdividing their backers into different tiers for a long time now. So this is just kind of a different facet of that. It's a little bit odd. I've gone hunting for the exact phrase of like, we aren't going to spend any money on marketing, and it's hard to find anything like that. The closest you can really get is every dollar goes, is,
It's
3x
spent on development. Yeah.
is 3 times more valuable to development or something along those lines.
Yeah. $1 that we get for development is equivalent to $3 that we get from a publisher because
right. That's the closest you can really get to.
Yeah.
We aren't gonna spend any money on marketing. In my experience,
I guess from my opinion, sort of like I can understand the outrage of like I rely on these streamers to kind of give me an honest opinion, and I will say this as far as streamers, because most of these streamers have bought into the game as far as backers. How much these guys have bought in varies wildly. Sort of like I had a discussion with the games after sort of like he came onto my channel to sort of say, hey, I'm not a fanboy. Research me a little better. And I had a dialogue with him just to sort of like say, hey, there was misunderstanding and I miscategorized you. And we had a nice little discussion, and he said, it's fine, keep it up. But like the games is like about $100 in. Captain Richard, I think he's like maybe 1,000 in. WTF Saurus, probably a couple thousand too.
Uh-huh.
I mean, these guys have bought in.
I know. No, W2F Saurus. He's well in $12,000-$13,000.
Okay.
Right,
So we're looking at a public face that has invested a lot and has a lot invested in making this game a streamable game, making this like the future content king for his channel. And for that kind of thing, the line gets a little bit blurry on genuineness. There's another word for it. I'm kind of blanking on it. But just like how genuine you are as far as whether or not you're showcasing this game because you like it, or you're showcasing this game because you have skin in it and you want to promote it to as many people so they can put their skin into the game too and make your investment worthwhile. This is sort of like we kind of get into like pyramid scheme kind of stuff. I mean, like they a lot of these streamers throw their their referral codes out. I mean, that's why the top 5 people on that referral contest and tracker are all streamers.
Yes.
And so these people benefit the most from that program by getting their reward points. They get special little rewards. But the average gamer that decides to say, hey, I'll Twitch stream it, I'll throw out my referral codes every so often, there's all the fish have pretty much been caught in those lakes. And any fish that are left over is getting caught in the trawl nets of the big streamers. And so those streamers are benefiting the most from.
Now here's a question maybe you can answer. Do you know, because a lot of these streamers are quick to say, oh, I don't take any money from them. Do you have any sort of clue or insight as to if they've been gifted different JPEGs to give away? I mean, those have a high perceived value to some.
As far as actual evidence, no comment.
Oh.
As far as what I believe, as far as like the larger picture. So the larger picture of me says that these JPEGs are promised to a lot of people. Sort of like, you get your journalists, sort of like you have your journalist accounts, you have your streamer accounts, sort of like to show off some stuff. Now, those that bring in, within referral contests, yes, you get so many referrals, you get some free stuff that you can attach to your account. And that's why, let's see, what was Jeff Freezy's referral count at last time I checked? It was like a 2,170 something. And so, like, obviously, he's pretty much got everything that CIG has been offering at this point. And whenever a referral contest comes around, typically one of those 5 top streamers is going to get the new free stuff. So, in essence, it's not so much that CIG gives them free stuff for them to do stuff to give back to CIG. The streamers are already doing this for them. There's no need for CIG.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
more.
don't. There's no point in giving more incentives because they were doing it anyways. I see what you're saying.
So, like,
Artemis Black in the Twitch chat brought up another good point. It's not the publishers or the company, paying for these gift PCs. It's, that's coming out of the backers, bankrolled project money. So I think that's why some people, feel it as a slap in the face because, they're taking the money that they put into the project and just doling it out to these different streamers.
Yeah, I didn't buy my pledged or purchase or pre-order or whatever they want to call it. I didn't give them my money for them to give some borderline rapist a brand new high-end PC. I'm sorry.
So I think I think most of the outrage for that is CIG didn't say a thing before announcing. If CIG had come out and said, "Hey, we would like to do a marketing push that involves a couple of Twitch streamers that we'd like to give them a high-end PC," sort of like because those are the ones that are pushing our product out the most, and we're going to give them a brand new PC partnership with Intel for the Optane fucking SSD. Sorry, it's just sort of like that stupid brick of a solid state drive.
Not
back
the Intel. The brick.
It's such a it's a brick because like most people sort of like going out there. You have to buy a completely different motherboard for that SSD card, and most people don't know that. They get out and they essentially get a brick, and they realize, oh, I don't have the it's not compatible with my current motherboard, and you're just like, well, I'm just shit out of luck. To be fair, a lot of the tech geeks are well aware, sort of like, we're waiting to see whether or not like the technology, especially for like motherboards from like Asus and all those guys, are sort of like, okay, are we going to move towards what Intel is doing with their SSD architecture? So it's a wait and see right now. The Optane is experimental. It's what was Microsoft way? HD DVD,
yes,
as opposed to like Blu-ray. So we're kind of looking at that split right now. So that's kind of what that is. So anyway, back to the point. So we're partnering with Intel. Intel can give out these SSD cards for free too, and I buy power. I don't think they're giving CIG a discount. Sort of like you bought what, 1, 2, 3 computers for streamers? No, there's no discount for that kind of bulk.
No.
Like if you're buying 20, yeah, there might be a discount, but 3, no.
Now there was a rumor that came up here in the thread today from Gruff Puff, saying that Chris is trying to get out of his obligation to show up at this dinner. Is that?
Oh.
What's your guys' take on that? Because I was wondering, we were talking about Chris's character earlier. I don't see how you get out of this when you sold the ticket for $350 or whatever it was.
Oh, I
Go ahead, Bootcha. Go ahead.
Oh man, I have heard something. I cannot talk about it, but
Oh no, you can. That's just it. You can.
I can't talk about this. But in the case of no, can't talk.
Is it gonna out somebody?
Well,
I cannot comment. Okay, so but as much as I can talk about it, Chris Roberts not showing up to the paid cold lunch and hot air event would be magical. I mean, just from like a Schadenfreude perspective.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
train wreck. You get the train wreck is coming. You get to find a good seat.
I mean, it is a case of sort of. Can I believe that Chris Roberts would actually miss it? Yeah, I can actually believe Chris Roberts would
So
actually
can I.
miss it.
Yes.
I mean,
I keep going back to his Reverse the Verse appearance here recently, where he said something along the lines of, if Aaron was available, he would be sitting in this seat instead of me. And that, to me, gives this rumor credence. I mean, this guy does not like going in front of the backers, it seems to me.
he doesn't like going in front of the backers in a uncontrolled environment, and that's exactly what that Reverse the Verse was. Because remember, the last time he did that in an uncontrolled environment was that holiday special where he tried to play.
That was the best.
Yes, that
I'm
was the
surprised.
Was there like 400 goons in the channel?
Now hold on.
Something like.
Hold on. I mean, I gotta say, how is this uncontrolled? One of those was live. Was this Reverse the Verse also live?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
That Reverse the
but
Verse
yeah,
was live too.
He seems. It seems to me he likes getting on the stage there and doing the entertainment value on the yearly, bi-yearly shows they do. But these uncontrolled kind of off-the-cuff things, no, not so good.
Chris Roberts does theater. He does not do improv.
Ah, okay.
Ah.
So that's why we see them very rehearsed, practiced on stage.
Yes. And again, sort of like, this is why I'm harping on the word theater. It's sort of like Wildcatter theater, sort of like Hollywood theater.
I practiced this in the mirror.
I think we're coming up here on 15 minutes till top of the hour, and we'll cut it off there. So if there's any other topics you want to get to, let me know. Earlier we talked about sometimes the word early days comes up, and this is something that really grinds my gears as far as, we're in year 5 or 6 or whatever number you want to put on it of development, and they're still calling it early days. This is like the
early stages, early days, yeah.
It's just really blatant as far as, I think it's very clever to set expectations of don't expect much from us, but it's kind of a slap in the face to everybody that I would think is expecting something relatively soon. I mean, I've seen a few backers say 2018 could be release year.
It can't. It can't. It absolutely can't. And just on the basis of foundation alone, I don't care about any of their stretch goals. Just look at what's on their plate right now, and it's an discohesive mess. It is just absolute garbage, and there's no game. Where's the game loop? I've got enough games to give me sandboxes. I mean, I can jump. I mean, unless this is a Gary's Mod in space, I don't see the game. I just don't see with how far behind. They're years behind. There is nothing that they have done that can show me that they can go ahead and cram out everything wrong with their game in the few months we have left in this year.
There has been a lot of revisionist history, yes. I mean, that's kind of what makes Sun Cost Galaxy a lot of a lot of research into the early days, stuff that I didn't record myself, or stuff that a goon didn't record or catalog or something, because it's hard to look back and see what promises were made, what milestones were set back then without running into the most recent revision to say, oh, we have actually moved it to this. And you try to look back and sort of like, it's just
okay.
This veil over.
Real quick, I want to go ahead and probably start changing some nomenclature.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest leverage points that the faithful and the zealotry of the SIG backers is that they want to dissect the word promise. They didn't promise anything.
Oh.
Okay. Let's call them feature promotions or something else, because they want to parse apart the pedantry of a word. I'm looking at when I bought my badass Ram truck. It had this, it had that, it had the Hemi, it had the supercharger, it had all of these things. That's
everything that was in the brochure.
Everything in the brochure. That is what I can take it to any. I can strip that truck down to the washer, and it will be there. I'm trying to figure out at what point can we cross the barrier of maybe parsing the language and holding Chris's feet to the fire for everything that he looked into the audience and the camera that was pointing to everybody around the world and saying, I am going to give you this. At what point does he become accountable to that?
I mean, I've talked a little bit about this, and part of the content that I cut out of Sunk Cost Galaxy 5 was sort of the stretch goal stuff. And I think from the baseline that I believe should be in place is everything that was in the stretch goals is, a etched on stone promise. These are the promises that came on down from high, for Moses to bring down. And from there, you kind of have to start to see when those promises were made. At what point? Were promises made before a sale? Were promises made during a sale to keep this this specific ship going? Sort of like, let's talk about the Vulcan. Sort of like, it'll have repair stuff, even though we don't have repair mechanics in, but it'll be the repair ship, the starter repair ship.
Here's an interesting example. Maybe you can explore ship naming. This was something I think, I trained myself not to use the word promise because that is a trigger word for the Star Citizen community, but the expectation was, and Chris said, actually we could probably just play this YouTube right now and hear it, that people will be able to name their ship. And now, in 2017, they decided to sell this other luxury ship, and only that ship now comes with this incredibly important feature somehow, to name your ship. I don't know what the name they have for it now. It's something like
so next question
naming
from,
title token or something.
Okay, so that, if I remember correctly, during the original crowdfunding push, the Kickstarter and all that, the October-November 2012, there was a separate tier of a constellation pledge that you can make that specifically said that you could rename your constellation to anything specific that you wanted. So so I can type anything in this field, and that will be the ship's name. The USS, the divs gave us this, sort of like that.
So just to inject a little quote here, May 5th, 2014, Chris said, "Yes, you will be able to name your ships."
Okay.
But anyways, I forget how we got on this tangent. But sorry, I accidentally hit mute on myself there for some reason. But Yeah, I mean, the shifting goalposts is nothing new to this project.
Yeah. I mean, like, for me, as far as I know, as far as my research goes, is it may be a case I need to research this more. I probably will, as I'm going to get into some of this stuff. But I believe the Constellation was supposed to be the one ship that you could rename, since it was supposed to be the multi-crew ship. I mean, that was the Firefly ship. That was the Millennium Falcon. That was
Right.
the one that everybody, wanted to fly, be Malcolm Reynolds or Han Solo. That was their fantasy. And so, like,
Okay.
a little ship like the Cutlass or like the Hornet, I don't think there was going to be naming options for those, but it might be a case that Chris Roberts might have promised differently.
Oh, okay,
In
yeah.
which
Here it
case,
is. It's
that
differently.
changes.
Yeah, it was changed differently. It's if you buy this, I don't know how much it is. I'm gonna guess like $800 or something.
I think it's about
You'll get
500 bucks,
early
I think.
access to the name reservation system. So yeah, slightly different. So Bing is technically not lying. Goonie. Okay, so we are probably getting close here to the end. If you guys want to do a second episode, we definitely can. I'm feeling it.
Okay.
Sounds
you guys
good.
need a break?
Yep.
Let's do the
Yeah.
outros. You guys want to do an outro or just want to cut it off? Be like, get out of here, newbies.
You start off, Dapper.
Well, I want to go ahead and make a very heartfelt appeal to the Something Awful moderators to free Derek Smart. I feel he was a valuable asset. Maybe if we could give him on like a probationary period, I don't know. But let's bring the Warlord back. We need him home.
And this is Bootcha reminding you to clean off your desks with your computers, because sometimes you need to clean that shit off.
This is your virtual captain speaking. I had some joke thought of up in my mind. I can't remember it. Thank you for listening to this episode. This is the Star Citizen ARGcast. And ARG! Actually, I think, because Beatwagon originally was posting about the idea. The original name was Fudcast, but I don't know. Anyways, I thought, I didn't want to discredit ourselves, so we're the ARGcast. Anyways, thank you guys for listening. We're going to be right back here with the next episode. And if you're listening in your podcast, go ahead and just hit skip and go to the next one. See you guys.